Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today, presented by Subway. I'm Jamie. That's Dave. That's Heath. I'm getting hungry, so I think I'm going to go have some Subway as soon as the show is done. But first, we're going to give you some breakouts for the 2021 campaign. Dave, we'll start with your guys here, and it's a very fun list of some young players that have a chance to really stand out in the 2021 campaign. You got Jerry Jeudy as a sophomore, TJ Hawkinson as a third-year tight end, and Jalen Hurts as a second-year starting quarterback, but his first year as the full-time starter for the Eagles. So tell us why you like these three guys.
I am falling hard for Jerry Jeudy. Love what I saw from him last year in terms of route running. Hated what I saw from him when 40% of his throws were not catchable. And then the ones that were catchable, he had some drops along the way. Hasn't had drops this preseason. Quarterback play is getting better in Denver, whether they go with Bridgewater or hopefully Drew Lock steps up this year. I think he's going to be able to deliver a really good return. I know his ADP isn't anywhere near round 5. I'd be willing, if I really had to have him, I would take him in late round 5, round 6. Thrilled to get Jerry Jeudy on my team. Love what I've seen from Jalen Hurts as well. Training camp started off really poorly for him. It looks like he started to play better. Liked what I saw in terms of accuracy in the preseason game that he just recently played in. And Devontae Smith is healthy. He's practicing right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's going to be a big part of Jalen Hurts becoming a better passer. And we know what Hurts is capable of as a runner. Those stats matter a ton for fantasy football. Love to have him. And then in Detroit, it's hard to get excited about any Lions player, but I think TJ Hawkinson has a chance to lead the Lions in targets, catches, receiving yards, touchdowns, and you can find him a little bit later on in draft day than round 5. I think the value with him in PPR is outstanding. Love waiting till round 5 or 6 to get TJ Hawkinson.
All right, let's talk about a couple of these guys here, because Jeudy is fascinating as a breakout candidate. I agree with you. I think he's going to have a big season. A lot of people make a big deal about the drops. He was second in the NFL in drops behind the guy that you see on this list, Deontay Johnson at 65. So Johnson led the NFL in drops with 16. Jeudy was number 2 at 14. And I think it's one of the most overblown stats, because you know who number 3 was in drops last year? It was Tyreek Hill with 11. So if you're going to penalize all these guys, you got to penalize all. If you're going to penalize one, you got to penalize all of them. And I don't think anybody's penalizing Tyreek Hill. So hopefully the quarterback play will be better. Like I said, we're waiting to find out who the starter will be between Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. But Jeudy trending in the right direction. I love TJ Hawkinson. Been one of my favorite breakout candidates all season. And the same with Jalen Hurts. And hopefully Hurts can run to the extent that we saw last year when he was trending toward a 1,000-yard rusher. So there is some tie-ins with your breakout candidates, Heath, because you have a Lion, you have a Bronco, you also have a Dolphin. But you're taking a different spin on this. You're taking at least 2 guys, and Fant may start to trend in the wrong direction because of his leg situation, but 2 guys that are not exactly very popular among fantasy players right now. Gaskin's fortunes may have turned a little bit following the second preseason game, but I think people are running away from DAndre Swift. You're still running toward him.
That makes the profit all that much more valuable when you can get him even later. I just think when you're talking about breakouts, you're talking about upside. We're going to forget about floor for just a moment. And DAndre Swift showed last year the type of ability that he has on a team where no one else averaged even 4 yards per carry. He averaged 4.6 yards per carry. He scored 10 touchdowns on 160 touches on the number 20 offense in football. So he's already been on a bad offense and produced very well on a per-touch basis. His new coaching staff now has a head coach that wants to run things like the Saints, an offensive coordinator that's going to run things like the Chargers, and they're talking about him as Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler. He's shown the elite efficiency already. If he stays healthy for even 15 games this year, he's going to be a top 12 running back in PPR scoring. I think he has top 5 upside. Jamal Williams can have his 10 to 12 touches. That's not going to hold DAndre Swift down, because Anthony Lynn's offense gives 30 to 32 touches per game to running backs.
Before we go on, Dave, I know you're concerned about DAndre Swift. I guess you don't share the same sentiment as
I don't. No, I'm worried about him staying healthy, and we're already dealing with that right now. I think in PPR, listen, if TJ Hawkinson isn't going to lead the way in targets and catches for the Lions, I think Swift might, because he should be a guy that gets a lot of work in PPR. So I'm kind of okay with him in those formats. But in non-PPR, worried about the touchdown production, worried about him being on the field for even 13 games, much less 17 games. He's someone I'm staying away from.
You think he's a bigger injury risk like a Saquon Barkley or a Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, I would say at this point
I just don't know how that's possible. He hasn't had near the injury problems of either of those guys. He's done more the last couple of days.
I think Dalvin Cook hopefully has established himself playing.
I mean, he has more upside for sure. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying just in terms of the injury concerns, I don't think it's Saquon's obviously in a similar situation because he's still coming out of his injury. DAndre Swift is coming out of his injury. Barkley's injury more significant, but also further removed. But it is, worth noting that, when we talk about some of these injured guys, I mean, Joe Mixon is a guy that missed the majority of the season last
Christian
year.
McCaffrey missed 13
well,
games
I'm
last
talking about
year.
guys in a similar range that, you may be concerned about in terms of injury risk, So you have Swift, you have Mixon, you have some of those guys that are going. Gibson with the toe injury, people still bring that up. He still gets asked about that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire as well. So it is very tough to buy into Swift, but I think the more people that listen to your optimistic side of things, getting him at a cheaper cost is certainly worth it. Myles Gaskin and Noah Fant, though, two other guys that you like.
Yeah, Gaskin had an 8-game stretch last year. His final 8 games, he averaged 103 yards per game. That's a 1,700 yard pace. Now we're playing 17 games. I don't really believe that Malcolm Brown's going to do much. He might steal a couple touchdowns. Savon Ahmed will be involved. But this is Gaskin's backfield, and I think we saw it in the second week of the preseason. He's my favorite guy now in that range after you get past the guys you feel good about as starting running backs. I guess Swift would be my favorite because you guys don't feel comfortable with him as your starting running back, but he's at number 17 now in my running back rankings. I'm fine with Gaskin early in round 4, and I do believe he has top 12 upside because he showed us top 12 upside last year in those 8 games. And then Noah Fant, we've seen him get to that 5-6 target per game threshold. We've seen him be efficient for a tight end on a per target basis. I think this offense will be better. The quarterback play is going to be better, and Fant could be a top 5 tight end if he stays healthy.
I've said this a few times that we like to play the extrapolation game. Take this sample size and play it over 16 games. But for Myles Gaskin, it's a fun one because if you take the games that he played in, just the games he played in, even in the beginning of the season, if you take those numbers over 16 games, because he missed time because of COVID, he missed time with the knee injury, that he would have been an 800, 600 guy, 800 rushing yards, 600 receiving yards. Only one running back did that last year, and that was Alvin Kamara. And so if he's in that type of conversation, that type of range, you see what the upside can be. And we saw it in that preseason game against the Falcons. So hopefully that's the type of usage we get from Myles Gaskin. Could lose some touches still, but still be very successful. All right, for me, my 3 breakouts are Najee Harris, Terry McLaurin, and Irv Smith. And in full disclosure, before the trade, I did have Damian Harris as the breakout candidate, but we were going to talk about him, so didn't need to bring him up again. But Najee Harris is somebody I'm very excited about. We'll take him at the end of round 1 if he's still available. Prefer to get him in early round 2, but we know the track record of Steelers running backs. I think he's going to be that next guy, working on rushing downs, working on passing downs, working at the goal line, getting everybody else water. When Mike Tomlin finds a guy, he lets him do everything for the team, and Najee Harris will be that type of running back. So the players that I struggle with are Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, and Antonio Gibson. Nick Chubb and PPR, that range of running backs. A lot of people, I think, struggle with those range of running backs of who's going to be the best of that group. To me, Najee Harris has the most upside based on the lack of competition for targets. Terry McLaurin's another guy that I like a lot going into this season. I think he's going to have a breakout season with the addition of Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's a little troubling that we haven't seen it in the preseason yet, but I don't think you should buy into the preseason more so than you should buy into what Fitzpatrick's track record has been when he leans on one of his top-tier wide receivers. No Curtis Samuel. Logan Thomas hasn't exactly been blowing the doors off with his targets in training camp. It's been a lot of Antonio Gibson. I think Terry McLaurin's going to have a big season coming up in his 3rd year. And then, Heath, you bring up Noah Fant and what his upside could be. I love Irv Smith. This is somebody that I target quite a bit on a lot of drafts. He falls because of the concern about the catches. I get it. He's in a very talented offense, or shares the field with a very talented receiving core with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. But I think Irv Smith can be a double-digit touchdown guy. I think there's going to be 4 tight ends that score double digits in touchdowns. Kelsey, Waller, Andrews. I think Smith is going to be that 4th guy. Very excited to wait for him, as we say, great or late. I think Irv Smith falls into that category. So let me ask you guys just to circle back on this and Najee Harris. Those group of rushers, Harris, Mixon, Gibson, Chubb. I think for you it's Mixon, for you it's Gibson leading that group.
Harris, Mixon, Gibson, Chubb. Mm-hmm. Gibson is going to be first for me in PPR.
And for you, Mixon?
Mixon.
And Harris will be last for me.
Harris is last for you.
Yeah.
Same for you?
In PPR, I've got Harris last. In non-PPR, I've actually got Harris second. I'm concerned about how much Pittsburgh's going to throw to their running backs. They were dead last at that last year.
Well, I mean, they had some pretty bad running backs to throw to. When
that's how
James
you get
Conner
around a bad offensive line, by the way.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we saw the big play in the preseason game against the Lions. 2 catches, 53 yards. But he has that ability, and he showed you that at Alabama. So I'm excited about Harris. I know we all are, but just in terms of the pecking order of some of those running backs. So interesting to split them up. All right, just